Seoul is the vibrant capital of South Korea, which you most probably would have already heard of thanks to the rise of K-pop. K-pop aside though, it is widely considered to be one of the most livable cities in Asia. And as someone who's only recently returned from Seoul, I can easily attest to this. I mean, what's not to love? This urban city is full of amazing places to see, delicious food to eat, and some of the friendliest / most attractive people I have ever met. It is no wonder that Seoul, South Korea remains one of the top tourist destinations in Asia. In fact, that's most probably why you've clicked on this video. So whether you're planning a trip to South Korea for the first time or perhaps even relocating to Seoul, South Korea, this is the video for you, as I'm going to be sharing things that I learned while researching before going and also things that I learned during my trip there for 2 weeks. I'm going to be dividing this video into two main sections. In the first section, we're going to be talking about things that I would recommend you know before going on your trip, which will include things that I recommend you pack for your trip to South Korea. In the second section, we're going to be talking about things that you should know when you're in South Korea, which will cover things such as how to navigate yourself in the city, as well as overcoming language barriers. Basically, by the end of this video, you're going to be navigating yourself through Seoul, South Korea like a seasoned traveler, and not make all the mistakes that I made. There are chapters in this video, so whilst I think you should know every single thing that I mentioned in this video, do feel free to click ahead to the chapters that are of more interest to you. You can always come back to the other ones later. And so if that sounds like something you'd be into, well then click on the subscribe button, as I will be uploading more Korea content in the coming weeks, and also strap yourselves in for my ultimate South Korea travel guide. Let's go. Let's start with the best time to visit South Korea. I mean, if you ask me, I'm gonna say any time is a good time to visit South Korea. But if you're not a fan of colder temperatures, for example, you might be interested to know that South Korea goes through 4 seasons a year. In particular, the warmer seasons are spring from April to June and summer in July to August. And so April to June, aka spring, is widely considered to be the best time to visit, especially if you want to check out the cherry blossoms. Although if you came in summer, you could be part of the beach crew at Hyundai Beach or check out coastal cities which tend to be a bit cooler like Busan. You could also choose to visit in the second most popular season, which is autumn, that happens between September to November, where the city turns into a beautiful hue of orange and yellow, and when many festivals happen. But if budget is a bit more of a concern, you may want to consider to visit in winter, which happens between December to March. Specifically, according to my research, January seems to be the time when flight tickets are at its cheapest. In fact, I personally chose to go in winter because I really wanted to see their Christmas decorations. Fair warning, it does get really cold, so if you plan to visit in winter, suit up and be ready for the temperatures to dip into the double-digit negatives degrees Celsius. I honestly was not expecting this next one, but I'm glad I was prepared anyway, and that is to bring a comfortable pair of walking shoes. Because whether you're heading to the next destination on your itinerary, wandering around in the markets, or even in between lines at a train station, you are going to be walking. Like I was averaging 20,000 steps a day easy. So yeah, definitely make sure you pack this with you. Whilst South Korea is predominantly a cashless society, I do recommend for you to have a little bit of Korean won on hand, especially if you plan to visit food markets or places that are a bit further away from the city. If you don't like the idea of bringing so much cash around, I would also recommend getting a WOW pass, which is something we will get into later in this video. This next one's not really South Korea specific, but it's just something that I've found to be helpful as someone who travels quite frequently, and that is to be ready with power banks. I mean, if you're going to be outdoor for the whole day exploring the city, this is something that you definitely want to bring with you. I personally am a fan of this 4-in-1 charger. It allows me to charge multiple devices at one go, and also typically gives me at least 2 to 3 charges on my phone when it's fully charged. But if you're like me and are always capturing content on the go, I would also recommend one of these snap-on battery packs that allows your phone to charge while you're using it to capture content. There is also absolutely no obligation, but if you do feel like purchasing one of these gadgets, click on the Snap Wireless link on my profile and purchase it via that link, where I will earn a tiny bit of commission from your purchase that will honestly just go towards me creating more content like this for you. I also highly recommend for you to chuck in one of these collapsible bags to give you that extra bit of luggage space. It's gonna come real handy when you plan to do a bit of shopping. The way it works is you simply unzip it and voila, you've got yourself a extra bag to make space for all your extra shopping. This next one is something that is honestly the first thing I look into when I'm traveling to a new country, and that is mobile data connection. There are a few ways you can do this. Buy a local SIM, turn on your data roaming, or my personal preference, which is to use the eSIM slot in my phone. For those who don't know, eSIM is a virtual SIM card slot that allows your phone to take on an extra data network whilst keeping your original physical SIM card in the phone to keep receiving SMSs and calls. Most phones come with an eSIM slot nowadays. To find out if your phone is eSIM compatible, you simply need to see if your phone has an eID, which you will generally find under your phone settings. I am a power user of Allo, which is an eSIM provider. All you need to do is to sign up and log into the app like so. Select your country of destination, which in this case is South Korea, and you will see the data plans that are available. In this case, both the data plans are unlimited. You just have to choose between the 10 or 30 days. Select the plan that you're after, make a payment, and they actually make it so convenient now. You simply click this button right here and it installs the eSIM ready to go on your phone. As a regular user of Allo, I can actually give you $3 off your first purchase. Simply enter code STEVE5974 when making your first purchase and thank me later. Okay, you've now arrived at Incheon Airport and need to get to your accommodation. There are several ways for you to get from the airport to the city. P.S. If you haven't exchanged any money yet, you can actually do this at the arrivals. The cheapest way to get to the city would be via the RX Express train, which would take roughly 50 minutes from the International Airport Terminal 1 to Seoul Station. This option will cost you around 9,500 Korean won or around $7 US. If you are carrying a few luggage bags or perhaps traveling with friends or family, catching a cab might be a better option. I did this option myself as I was carrying 2 luggage bags. It cost me about 56,800 Korean won to get from the terminal to Gangnam, which works out to be around $44 US. I booked my cab via an app called Kakao Taxi, which I would recommend for you to get if you plan to catch a cab at any point when you're traveling in South Korea. And in this next section, I'm also going to cover some of the other apps that I would recommend for you to download onto your phone when you're in South Korea. So Grab doesn't exist in South Korea. Uber does under the name Uber Taxi. However, in my 2 weeks of living in South Korea, I found the user experience for Kakao Taxi to be superior. That said, I've also had people report good user experiences with Uber Taxi, and as such, I would recommend for you to have both apps on your phone as a backup, since hailing a cab during peak hours can be challenging, and also for you to compare prices. The app itself is super user-friendly. Simply load up your credit card details, and yes, foreign credit cards are accepted nowadays, and you're good to go. There are a few categories that to book from, as you can see. However, to make it simple, general would do in most cases, especially if you're not traveling too far. And blue is the one that I used during peak hours when the general cabs were harder to hail. Feel free to also ask me any questions that you might have relating to Kakao Taxi or Uber Taxi in the comment section. Speaking of navigating yourself through Seoul, Google Maps doesn't work as well in South Korea, at least in my experience. I have had some people tell me that they've had fantastic user experiences with Google Maps in Seoul. However, in my personal experience, I just found the app to lag, and also the directions it would give me would just not be as accurate when compared against local map apps such as Kakao and Naver Maps. My personal preference would be for Naver Maps. I just found the user experience to be a lot more intuitive. I also wanted to take this opportunity to share with you some of the hot tips that I personally found useful while using Naver Maps. One of the things that I particularly enjoyed about Naver is when I enter the name of somewhere I wanted to go in English, it would most of the time pick up where I wanted to go in Korean. When it didn't though, this is what I did. I went to Google and I searched for the place I wanted to go, scroll down and you will see the address in Korean. Copy and paste that into Naver like so, and voila! As I also don't read Korean, I used 2 ways to verify that the address that I had entered was correct. The first way to do it would be to look at the numbers. As you can see from these 2 addresses here, if the numbers such as the street number and building number are the same, there's a very good chance that you have entered in the correct address. The other way I did this was to simply scroll down this Naver map at the point of destination and look at the pictures. If the pictures resemble where you want to go, there's also a very good chance that you're headed in the right direction. Like when I searched for Cafe Onion, there were 3 different Cafe Onions, but there was one in particular that I wanted to go to. So when I did copy and paste that address in, I checked the pictures and they looked exactly like the ones I saw on Instagram, so I knew that I was headed in the right direction. Also, another hot tip, please make sure the train that you're catching is headed in the right direction. To verify that it's going in the direction of your travel, look at where it's bound for on the map here and cross-check that with the train sign here or here. If you're like me and do not speak Korean, you're going to want to download this next app. It's called Papago and it's going to be the absolute godsend when you're in Korea. As I was mostly in Seoul, I really only used this app when I was navigating the food markets and speaking to the ajumas. However, you're probably going to be using this app a lot more if you're venturing further away from the city. To communicate to someone else in Korean, simply type in what you want to say in the app like so. And
서울역 어떻게 가나요?
voila! Aside from conversations, I also found this app to be superbly helpful when I was at restaurants or bars where the menu was completely in Korean. All I had to do was to point the phone camera to the menu like so and take a picture, and it automatically translates it to English as you can see here. But if you're on the hunt for K-beauty products like almost everybody else that goes to Korea and are perhaps a little bit overwhelmed by the sheer amount of products that are available out there, this app's for you because it actually shows you the top-rated skincare products that Koreans actually use. It's called Hwahae, and yes, it's all in Korean, but you can easily translate this using Papago or even Google Translate. The app is loaded with functions, but as a beginner, all you really need to know is to click on the second menu item, which roughly translates to rankings. The default view here will show you the top rated skincare products as rated by actual users of the product across all categories. But let's say if I'm looking for something specific like sunscreen, well then all I need to do is to click on the drop down filter on the left and select sun care. And voila, here are the top 3 sunscreen products in Korea currently. Click on any of the products for a full ingredient list, breakdown, active ingredients used, pricing, and actual customer reviews. Honestly, this app saved me so much time at Olive & Young because I walked in knowing exactly what I was gonna get. If you didn't know this, you're welcome. Speaking of essentials in Korea, I strongly recommend for you to get a WOW Pass. It is an all-in-one prepaid card specifically designed for foreign travelers with a triple function of allowing you to exchange your money from 16 different countries to Korean won, use as a debit card for cashless payments, which I personally found to be quite helpful as Apple Pay didn't always work. You can also use this for all forms of public transportation. You will need to scan your passport in order to purchase the card, and the purchase process is very straightforward. There is a deposit fee of 5,000 Korean won, but you can actually get this back at the end of your trip, or if you intend to return to Korea again like I do, you can actually just keep this card for your return visit. This is just a quick summary of the WOW Pass, so do also feel free to ask me any questions that you might have in the comment section. Speaking of taking the subway though, here are some general subway etiquettes that you may want to be aware of. 1. Always stand out of the way of exiting passengers. 2. And everybody I saw also strictly abided by this was to not sit in the red priority seats, which are reserved for people with disabilities, pregnant and senior citizens. I mean, no one's gonna stop you from sitting on these seats per se, but you will be met with many stares of disapproval. Thirdly, try to be quiet and refrain from eating or taking calls inside the train. This is another etiquette that they really do abide by strictly, so I strongly suggest that you do the same to be respectful. Alright, you've got yourself to South Korea. What now? If you're like me, you're most probably looking for places to eat. Well, if you're already a subscriber, you may have already noticed me uploading some YouTube shorts on places I'd recommend you check out in South Korea. If you haven't, that's okay. If you're not a subscriber, that's okay too, because I don't gatekeep. I will link my Korea playlist at the end of this video so that you can go ahead and check that out next. I also upload food and travel content on a regular basis, so do feel free to hit that subscribe button and join the Fat team as we check out fat things to see, eat and do in cities across the world, or one city at a time. And if you got to this point of the video, I want to thank you so much for your support. It really does mean everything. As always, I hope that you have a fantastic day ahead, or that you've already had a good day. I will see you very soon in the next video.